Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with the start of a new series. As you can tell from the title, it is Black Ice. Britain. We will be playing a somewhat historically based, I presume, campaign as Britain. Here, they've made a lot of changes since last I played Black Ice, and we're going to see how it goes. So I, just before playing this, now go whoever you are. I presume old age, Ari. Just those of you watching later, of course, this is the day that we heard that Sean Connery died. Okay, well, very interesting what they've done with research here. Okay, so Britain has two all-purpose research tabs, but then others that have limited research. This is a fascinating idea. To some degree, I would say they're bringing back the old research companies. I never played it, but I've seen some stuff about it from Hearts of Iron 2. So here, this Sussex research slot. You can see these are restricted, so we have to choose from these three. So you'd want to do these first, shall we say, and then figure out what slots are open. I want to do, like I say, before playing this, I played it for a little while. We're going to do mine warfare research there in Lancashire. I don't really understand exactly where or why. They've placed the research companies. I'm not saying they're wrong or anything like that. I just don't understand. No. Okay, well, we don't need to research any of these. Not that it wouldn't be good to do, but starting that year ahead almost takes a year to do. So now we're just going to come over here. I think we're going to do operational integrity. I think that may be what's closest to Britain. And so, yeah, certain research slots. Now, some are all-purpose. And Gloucestershire. Okay, and as you know, I'm more of a infrastructure first, so we're going to get on computing machines here since we can with this slot. Okay, and West Midlands. You guys, sorry, I have to double click on the way it is for some reason. I don't entirely understand that, but let's go after heavy artillery. Howitzers. Now we have two all-purpose slots, at least currently. They're very well. I haven't dug into the, and we'll take a look at it in a little bit more in a moment. The national focus probably giving us some more things, and who knows what it will be, whether general purpose or specific ones. We're going to come over here and go with, I think because we may be facing German bombing and other reasons, I think we'll go with dispersed. Britain did have a bit more of a dispersed industry. It was the US and the Soviets that did the concentrated industry. I know that. Whether that would line up exactly with whatever. Okay, so we go there and we have average tariffs, massive navy, large air force, lacking army strength, which is a negative, and Commonwealth research affecting various elements, as you can see here in research technology. Hello, LPRCN 2, how you doing today? Yeah, it's been a while since I played it because I rage quit last time over 2 issues, and we'll see if those issues are still in the game. One we won't maybe really see is the trade range for nations was cut down so that Romania, I don't think it was the purpose of it, but so that Romania couldn't trade with Germany, and I objected to that. That alone wouldn't have gotten me to rage quit. It was the overwhelming effects of trying to invade the Soviet Union with Germany. Not that there was effect, but the overwhelming effects. And you can look at my last play through my testing there. Okay. Well, we can zoom out here. I love this. I actually think it was Black Ice that influenced them to do this zoom out one. One of the Daniel played Black Ice and was having trouble navigating around it all on a live stream. Maybe I wish they would do this feature for research, because we have this, but one thing, you know, yeah, when you come all the way over here, you get the date again. But on, oh, I don't know, like some of these naval ones that I'm in here, what year are we supposed to be, you know, looking at kind of thing? Yeah, I know I can come over here and check 1936 and try to keep it in mind as I go along here, but it would be better if I could just zoom out. That would be a nice thing. Okay, so we have a lot of this. We won't be going through all of this, obviously, right now at once. But just to sort of go, we steady as she goes, which will unlock either global defense or home defense, mutually exclusive. War with Germany, commando raids. Fund the Irish Home Guard, Irish Expeditionary Force. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out which one is maybe the more historical one. Ready the Commonwealth. Support Spanish Republicans. I think there may be been very little covert stuff going from Britain, though Britain was part of the general neutrality patrols and trying to keep the war from spreading. So I don't know technically which one is historical there. This type of alt history, if you will, and again, like I write off, I don't know which one is motion of no confidence. Neville Chamberlain is current country leader. That may be more historical. That's obviously a caricature of Churchill there. This type of alt history, you know, is whichever one might have been, because this one, embargo Germany, World War Germany, is pushing down that kind of stuff I'm good with. It's where, oh, communists take over Britain in 1930, or fascists take over Britain in 1936. Well, that wasn't going to happen. Okay, reinforce the empire. Obviously, we will want to do that at some point here. Gain stability, whatnot. 70 days. Okay, call you LP. Very good. Good to know. I'm playing Road to 56. And am eating Germany as... It's been a while since I played it. It's probably changed. I think I like that mod reasonably well. Not my favorite, but decent enough. Okay, limited rearmament program. We could do civilian programs even right now. I guess that is... Yeah, I guess there isn't a little line coming. At least not that I can see a little line coming down, so that's sort of an independent. We could do that 70 days, limited rearmament. And cryptologic bomb for doing decoding. We're going to start with this because it's good. Weekly stability is good for a year there, but it's also just 35 days. So might as well get that started and get that going. Right. Now, for one thing we'll notice here, like East Anglia, well, let's look at London. 17 out of 26. Well, but notice civilian, military, artillery factories, and other ones here. And when, let's see, we click over up here to build one here in the green, it's going blue, because if we click here, we can build more military factories here. We can't civilian factories. So, like, you know, some of these other things like anti-air or radar, building slots are now more specified in the game, which I find interesting. I don't know if they've removed conversion out. No, I normally don't do converting of things, converting of factories. from civil to military, because normally when I'm playing, even if I've more or less filled up Germany, I can build in occupied territories or whatever enough and just continue to expand more than need to convert. But so I don't know how that works if I want to convert my factories from one to the other. But just an interesting thing there. Okay, now let's look at production of equipment. Now we're going to come down and do the easy thing here. Well, first we're going to move you up to here, you up to here, because we want to get you guys done first. Now they've gone down to just 3 slots per ship, but we're going to make sure once you get one ship done, focus on others. These are all just going to be one and dones, and then we'll look at what we want to put either in serial or one-off production afterwards. Okay, so that's... And they're absolutely right in that especially with the technology of the day, you can't rush. You can hurry the production along, absolutely. The U.S. does it. The U.S. does develop the Liberty ship type programs. What is sort of different in today, and if you look at some of the big, like I've seen some video and photos of the British building modern warships, in that they're sort of, they're building sections of the whole, you know, like as if you slice this vertically and then welding them together so that you can maybe build, or you can build a lot faster now and rush the production, as opposed to, you know, once you put the engines in, you can take the engines out, but you got to really start cutting that hole apart. Yeah, you can weld if you have welding technology appropriately. You can cut them out and put them in, but they're really not meant to be taken out or anything. They're not like a vehicle engine. So sort of structurally is just you can't, in the normal sense that this is working, just simply throw more factories at it and rush it through here. Obviously, we're going to go from January 1944 to June 1940 with, I presume, doing 3 dockyards. So where it really is the difference is the long-term planning for big things like battleships and carriers and whatnot. Now, hey Darren, how you doing? Good to have you here today. Okay, we need to look at logistics. Okay. As per normal Black Ice, they've got lots and lots of various equipment types. I'm going to say this, I know I've said this before, and I'm not against what they're doing here. I am fine with minutia. I actually like dealing with minutia, but I really don't know how it helps. I mean, for, I guess, immersion, pure immersion, there's that. But how artillery tractors versus artillery trucks, basically. Now, if you're talking, and I quite honestly, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, maybe they have later tracked versions of these things. Yes, the idea that the Germans used trucks to tow artillery, you know, whether it's the standard Opel Blitz or larger trucks, you know, bigger, heavier trucks, which they did have, towing heavier artillery. That versus the various prime movers, you know, the unarmored half tracks that they had in the East. Those two things do matter differently, even if both, you know, a big heavy truck and a big heavy half track both can pull the same heavy artillery piece. You know, it's more the idea that on the Eastern Front with the conditions out there, plus other areas of the world, having a half track works better. But the idea that I need to specify regular trucks and heavy trucks, I don't know, because just have more trucks needed to tow heavy equipment because more ammunition. So then we also have transport trucks, and then we have light vehicles. These are the oh boy. Let's see. Nope, gotta come over here. What are these called again? Oh, Ostentilies, that's right. Which is a little car. It was a fairly little car that they did turn into a little very light truck. So think of this as a small car that they've just put on a little bed in it, that had been sort of a very tight 4-passenger car. And yeah, that is a little thing, sort of equivalent of a Jeep, basically, but without maybe the good cross-country performance. So yeah, but yeah, see, like here, Lloyd Carriers, this is the maybe even Bren gun carrier. Then you go to the Bren gun carrier, and then you go to the Universal carrier, all based off of this. Yeah, this versus this for sort of. Plus, there's the armored effect too. But even if you had an unarmored version of this, that to me, because of technology, more heavy industry required to make the tracks system, even if this was, like I say, unarmored, that makes more sense. But some of this just gets into pure minutia. And what has everybody been saying? Yeah, good to hear that you're good. I mean, if you really want to try, you can probably without half the equipment there. Maybe. There's a lot of equipment for immersion's sake. Immersion's good, but make a Scottish division and name it Sean Connery. Oh, probably not. Hello, Dioga. Chua, we were talking about the loss of Sean Connery earlier. Probably won't do that, but I do get your sentiment. Sweet coastal artillery. Yes, that is a thing in the game here. So first we need to look here at what our needs are. And, if you want to specify like horse transport, that's fine. Okay, so we need some anti-aircraft, anti-tank, horse transport, and trucks, artillery trucks, and artillery tractor in production. So I want to get at least one of each of these in production. Okay. I don't know yet, quite honestly. The scale some of this equipment will be needed, whether we need lots and lots and lots, like with World Ablaze, man, you've got to pump out lots of artillery. That was always sort of fighting to catch up, was to have enough artillery. Mentioning artillery, okay, we need light and heavy artillery in production. And I want to say I really appreciate some of what they're doing here, is that even though now these are obsolete, but these are fully worked up factories that we don't necessarily want to change, because right now could just be equipment is useful for equipment's purpose. What were we looking at again? I forget. I'm talking too much. Oh, artillery, light and heavy. Okay. I guess it's light and heavy, as opposed to, I see medium there. Yeah. Put those in production. Coastal artillery. We'll wait on that for a moment. I want to get light vehicles, radio equipment, and recon equipment. Yeah, okay. I don't know. Desert equipment. And what the hell is desert? What the hell is desert equipment? I mean, can somebody tell me? Because they have a picture of, I don't know, a green squarish thing. Is that supposed to be a fuel can, a water can, a box of food? I don't know. A green squarish thing, binoculars, and an entrenching tool. You get rid of the desert thing, and that could be any field. I don't know what if you put a pith helmet there, okay, and shorts or something. I don't know what desert equipment is, quite honestly. Infantry division of the 4 Coastal Artillery Brigade. Yeah, there's probably some. It's a box to put in the sand. Put the sand in, maybe. I don't know. See, yeah, I don't know what desert equipment is. We need recon equipment. Where radio equipment is in here somewhere. Now, radios I get as a separate thing, because radios are critical to really improving combat capabilities, because we can look at the idea that I'm just stating some generalities here. A lot of time during the the Soviet Union, especially like pre-war, platoon commander tanks, the tank who's in charge of the platoon in the Soviet armored forces, he had a receiver radio in it, I think, was sort of the standard thing. So he could get a command. The sort of like company commander tanks would have a sending and receiving, meaning he could hear what maybe the battalion, maybe not tank commander, but a battalion radio truck or whatever could tell him, could send him information, and he could broadcast to his different platoon commanders what to do, so he could send and receive. The platoon commander could just hear what he was supposed to do, and then the rest of the people in the platoon would either just be given orders, hey, I'm going to use American titles. Bob, you stay just behind and to the left of the tank. I was thinking about using Russian type names, but gave up quickly on that. Sam, you stay just behind and the right of my tank. Sort of like creating a little arrowhead type 3-tank wedge or whatever. I don't know how many. In the beginning of the war, Britain had a 3-tank platoon army, set up. By the end of the war, they had mostly gone to a 4-tank platoon. Where Germany is looking, their platoon or tank Zug is a 5-tank. So it varies from nation to nation and time to time through the wars. The theoretical size of a tank platoon. So I don't know what the Soviets were right offhand. But so let's just presume it's like a 3-tank platoon or something, or even if it's a 5-tank, you sort of create a little arrowhead, and you just follow along there. You just sort of follow the guy in charge with you. Oh, and if the guy in charge tank gets knocked out, you absolutely have no idea what to do anymore, because the tank or the company commander can't talk to the rest of the tanks. Oh, and you also the tank platoon commander would be given a set of semaphore flags and be able to, like, hey, if he can get out there and wave his flags around enough that everyone would see that, the guys, the 2 or 3 men in the tank, one of them would notice, and then he would, say, start whirling the flags around in semaphore, whatever their version of semaphore was, giving instructions to the rest of the platoon. Now, that's presuming nobody's with like machine guns or rifles shooting at them at the time, if in combat, to get them to move around. You can see how limited that is. So when one tank sees, oh, there's 4 German tanks over there. Well, I guess do I keep following my platoon commander that I've been told to follow, or do I stop and shoot at them? Maybe if I stop and shoot at them, I wonder if the rest of the platoon would even know about it. And maybe if I machine gun my platoon commander's tank, and would he get the idea that, hey, somebody's shooting at me, and look around and see that, oh, that's, Bob shooting at me. Why is Bob shooting at me? Is he doing an anti-Soviet coup? Oh, wait a minute. He's now sort of frantically waving and pointing out of the top of his tank over there, trying to tell me that there's 4 German tanks over there about ready to kill us. Now, of course, by this time they've already killed everyone because they shot everybody up. So, yeah, well, this is how the without radios, a lot of hello, Jaden. A lot of the command structure was working, including like in the French army and other armies. It depends on it where you're talking about. So you can sort of see how Germany, by the time you get to the Soviet invasion, I believe basically all tanks had a sending and receiving unit in the tank. Now, command tanks would have maybe 2 sets of radios, possibly one more powerful that would have greater range, and so that would be like the whether it's the company commander, more likely there, would be able to talk to higher level commands, and maybe have the radio operator kind of guy in the command tank, or something like the loader or somebody like that, who's trying to listen to higher authority just in case, the battalion commander retasks the company, or if the company commander wants to talk to the nearby company commander, or the company commander of the infantry that are running around in between the tanks, so you can they can talk to each other, or talk to the mortar section that's back away and order a mortar barrage. So the command tank has one set of radios set up to talk to down to potentially each individual tank, but talk to the different platoon commanders. The platoon commanders can talk to each other, and they can talk around. So you can see that the Germans are going along. Somebody spots a bunch of Soviet tanks. He starts getting on the radio, telling the other tanks not just that, oh, there's fire, as a tank blows up somewhere in the group, he's already spotted where the fire is coming from and is going to tell them, as opposed to tanks are just exploding. Where are they? Where are they? I don't see them yet. He's getting on the radio. Everybody through this command structure can, get messages out, and if platoon commander tank blows up, well, somebody else knows, the corporal or whoever the sergeant, more likely, because it's, or whatever, the next guy in command in the tank platoon can take over at a moment's notice, and everybody just continues to go on. And so this is why radios and radio setups are so important, and we just don't realize today, because they're, everybody's on their phone nowadays. That's sort of like a radio, not quite, but we take communication for granted, and in a lot of armies, it takes quite a while for that to happen. Now, the British Army, by I know by 41, the stuff going on in North Africa, they've got sending and receiving units everywhere. The Americans, all of their tanks, by the time, 41, 42, by the time they're in, they've got sending and receiving units in all the tanks and it's everywhere. And the Americans do the best, because they have both that little handheld walkie-talkie kind of thing. That's actually, the walkie-talkie is the backpack. It's the handy-talkie, is the sort of handheld, banana-shaped handheld radio, and that would be like the squad, or maybe the platoon commander would have that. The times either the platoon commander would have a guy with a backpack radio behind him, and definitely the company commander would have 1 or 2 backpack radio guys following him around, again, to monitor different channels, higher command authority channels, outside of his immediate command, meaning calling in the artillery or whatever, and then another guy next to him that would, within his company, because you'd have like the mortar section, well, they'd have a sending and receiving unit just to you need the 60 millimeter mortars to shoot somewhere, or the heavy machine gun element of the company, we'll move your machine guns now from this hill to that hill, and so they, without having to use runners, he's commanding up and down through his company command section. So you can see how important radios are to being an effective organization. And of course, America, by 1944 or whatever, is doing it better than anybody else in the world. They both in technology and getting it out there, meaning having enough radios out there. But so that this I get as being a separate thing. Recon equipment, okay, a flare gun. Flare guns are common for everybody, because like if you have two platoons, regular platoons, one platoon is setting up going to machine gun the enemy. Oh, they're over there by that brick wall. Okay, you start machine gunning them and rifle shooting at them, and you're keeping their heads down, and the other platoon moves around to the flank, and you may not quite really know when they're going to get to where they're going to go. And because, well, radios don't always work, and also most armies don't have platoon level radios, is, when I get up near ready to assault, I'm going to shoot a red flare up into the sky, even in the daylight, because you'll still see it. And that means to stop shooting, because we're going to be rushing them. We're going to jump up, throw hand grenades, go flat. They're going to go boom, and then we're going to rush right in there, and we don't want you shooting us anymore. But to coordinate, to stop fire with this, from firing to stop fire, that kind of thing was common way down. So flare guns are everywhere. Yeah, binoculars are recon equipment, but trust me, platoon commanders would love to have binoculars if they're available. Cameras. Neat picture. The only thing I can imagine cameras ever really being used for reconnaissance, quite honestly, is aerial reconnaissance. So that, because you want to fly over the enemy's position to, like, like you can remember mentioning Sean Connery here, the Bridge Too Far, where they talk about the one guy is thinking what they're seeing from aerial reconnaissance of hidden panzers or something under, trying to warn them. So doing big reconnaissance, aerial reconnaissance, like that to find and then fly around, take photos, and try to identify what type of units and equipment are around there, and then more precisely locally, just where the artillery positions are that are camouflaged, that the pilot zipping by at 100+ miles an hour, dodging around, may not be able to carefully observe, but just know that, there's enemy over somewhere, and so he's going to do photo reconnaissance, and then they land and they develop the photos and go, yep, there and there are our artillery positions. Okay, get out to our people so that we can start bombarding them, whether with our artillery or air attacks or whatever. So yeah, in air use, I can see that. I just don't, and I could be entirely wrong, but I don't see that as a ground use equipment. So I don't get recon equipment. I really, other than the binoculars, I don't get that as anything more than standard. Now I get recon vehicles, Jeeps or whatever, or armored cars or whatever. I just don't get some of that, but okay. I think the evolution of the radio, you really, absolutely, Jaden. Germans might have started motorization of warfare, but yeah, no, the Germans got excellent at it. They got better and better, but it was by the end of the war, the U.S. really was the best at it. Britain and Germany were both close seconds. Germany's biggest problem is that their whole system was breaking down because of losing the war. So they knew how to do motorized warfare, but whether it's getting enough fuel or whatnot at the to conduct it well, or just simply they don't have time for maintenance. German vehicles are harder to maintain than American vehicles, and they got to be out of combat longer to maintain them. But because they didn't have enough breaks in combat to do maintenance on vehicles, they had where the Americans could just, we got to maintain these tanks. Well, just bring in some other tanks to keep them going. The whole supply infrastructure, maintenance structure was just breaking down too much, and so German vehicles would just break down because they're supposed to be, something, overhauled every 150 miles on a tank, and they haven't had any of that done for the last 250 miles or whatever it was, and they're just breaking down, and the whole thing is just breaking down. Ran out of fuel, food, all kinds of things, but it's also time. So yeah, so that's what really hampers Germany. Britain, they're also exhausted, but in different ways by the end of the war. But they're getting good, but they're just behind the U.S. definitely. Okay, so some of this stuff, and I get immersion. Trust me, I do. I love immersion. Some of this just seems, maybe a bit overdone. And I don't mean to slam. I'm not here slamming. Let's get some motorcycles in production. Black Ice for what you're doing, but I'm just evaluating it, which means I'm going to give my opinion. That's sort of what I very much see that I'm doing here. Okay, so we're gonna let the time clock roll for a few days on all of that. I know I was talking a lot about radios, but I think radios are an important topic. Oh, well, yeah, Britain hadn't kept going, but part of it was just manpower exhaustion. Their forces were tired, shall we say. They were much more sensitive to casualties. And a lot of their NCO types, a lot of their long service people, they had been at Dunkirk, they had been in North Africa, they were tired of the war. It was just overwhelming them. I wanted to give this a couple of days to see what we may be. Okay, well, yeah, I was playing it before. More things are popping up that we need to do. Okay, more coastal artillery, more infantry equipment, machine guns. Just do basically one of everything. And again, with everybody. Anything like this, like a game as complicated as this, it should take a while to learn. Meaning your first playthrough, which this is my first playthrough with this. Well, we can do desert, I guess. And you need to play it multiple times as a learning experience. So don't. League of Nations, Italy strongly condemned. Will the lead act? Well, the League actually embargoes Italy, or already had in 35. So don't take this as a playthrough as a how-to or whatnot. For we need cavalry equipment, armored cars, light vehicles. Playthrough. This is more of just a look at. Look at Black Ice and how it's changing to see if it's something you want to pursue. If I play it enough, we may make a series on more like some of my Black Ice Hearts of Iron 3 series. I very much look at them as sort of, if you will, best how to play. As long as we're having green here, we're at least supposedly making more. We use mechanized and tankettes. Okay, I'm not absolutely sure in 1936, not absolutely sure, but I don't think they were using tankettes as this game does. And it was the Cardin Lloyd tankette that basically was seen as a failure. This is it's a Cardin Lloyd Mark whatever. They went through several marks. Obviously that says Mark 6, but went through multiple marks of this, and that is sort of a classic sort of tankette with a Vickers machine gun mounted in the whole limited traverse. I don't know what they're thinking needs this. Yes, the British may have had some laying about still in some of their inventories. They were very much looking, which I would call this a tankette because it's just a 50 cal. This That's also a tankette. Now a heavy tankette, because that's just a Vickers machine gun. I think it's just a 30 cal Vickers, where this has the 55 caliber Vickers. Now, for some reason, they're using a Char B for this. Is that? I guess they just don't have, because they have the what is it? The 7-ton Vickers or something like that. A bigger Vickers that looks very vaguely, but different than that, but sort of slab-sided like that. That was around, but was quickly considered obsolete. I think fully withdrawn by 37 or something. I don't know, maybe even before then. I don't know. China had a weakness of if they had to rely on other countries for aid and supply. Well, Britain was an empire, and it was built to function as an empire. Its resources were out in its empire. Now, here's something that Britain did not have at this time. They claim here that we have 1,160 or something submachine guns. Britain did not have a submachine gun until after the fall of France. So that is historically wrong. They did not value the machine gun. They knew what it was, obviously. They captured German examples from World War I. Okay, well, looks like we mechanize. We could get some mechanized in production. No, don't we have mechanized in production? No, I guess we don't. I probably looked at it, but didn't. Yeah, the Lloyd carrier. The thing with tankets is that light tanks were way better than most situations. Well, okay, see now, we normally don't, just because we use the term Panzer, and we don't have a term Panzerette, and we often think of the Panzer I as a light tank. And King George V dies. Edward is, at least currently, our pseudo-monarch now. So the Panzer I, with its machine guns, I would definitely, I don't normally use the term, but a machine gun armed tank to me is a tankette, even if it has a turret. So even that light tank, the Vickers light tank there, sometimes these don't appear up. Yeah, this thing I would still sort of call a tankette. There, I guess they're going with the idea of a tankette doesn't have a turret on it. But I would go machine gun only, or at least, and then where you might get the, well, see, a Panzer II has a 20 millimeter cannon on it. Now, it's a rapid fire sort of semi-machine gun type cannon, but it is a cannon, so I consider a Panzer II a light tank. So, normal nomenclature, at least in the modern American military that I sort of grew up around, anything or sort of like 15 millimeter and above is a cannon. Below 15 millimeter, so 12.7 for the 50 caliber, both American and Soviet, and the 14.5 millimeter Soviet machine gun were machine guns. So that will include the 55 caliber Vickers water-cooled machine gun as well. Those are machine guns. 15 millimeters and above are cannons. So if it's a cannon-armed vehicle, I consider it a tank. It can be a light tank like a Panzer II, or it can be a heavy tank like a King Tiger. Those are tanks. Tanks really, at least once you get out of World War I, should have a turret. So tankettes can have a turret, so long as they only are carrying machine guns. They're still, in my opinion, tankettes. So like the Stuart M3 light tanks, those are light tanks because they have a 37 millimeter gun. The Kingdom of Italy abandons the naval treaty. Benito Mussolini announced today the Kingdom of Italy would no longer consider itself bound by the naval treaties. Now, yeah, the most developed British armed forces is the Navy with them. Okay. I'm not yet ready to make the decision on whether we're doing this, but we're probably going to go global defense. We could reinforce the empire, gain stability. That would be nice. War support's down, but stability is good. And I would agree that there wasn't a lot of support for just going to war somewhere. Limited rearmament, that would be nice. 4 civilian factories, so we'll do that. Hello, Armands, how you doing? And hello, Logan, how you doing? HOI IV on Twitch, yes, we're on both Twitch and YouTube simultaneously. So watch whichever one's better for you. The naval treaties were kind of a waste of time. Well, I think it probably would have been better for the world they had not been there, but that's a debatable thing. Everyone doesn't take it, in my opinion, but yeah, like you're saying, Jaden, yeah. Just because once you get to a cannon, whatever, however you define it, but I would define a Panzer II as a cannon-armed tank, it's a tank. Oh, very good, Logan, watching. And yeah, this is really my sort of first time playing this modern of a version of Black Ice. English commies, the communists outside the Soviet Union are fixated on attempts that have been made to destroy the Soviet Union. Henry Pullet, General Secretary of Britain's Communist Party, says that the trials in Moscow represent a new triumph in the history of progress. Does he mean the show trials, I guess? I don't know. I'd never heard of Henry Pullet before. Just not up on the British Communist Party. Okay, well, we lose a little bit of stability. Okay. Hello. Oh boy, another name I'm going to butcher. Hapsig. I'm sorry. Granddad was in London during the Blitz. A bomb once fell through his roof while he was hiding under the kitchen table, but it didn't. So very good to hear that it didn't go off. I mean, yes, very good. Okay, the Empire of Japan also abandons the naval treaty. Well, hey, thanks for following. Very much, people. Thank you for following, and you can also hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Okay, we're losing political power here. Gray Frost. I guess that's what they're using for the newspaper headline. I don't know that newspaper. The Winter Olympics have ended. Those are the medals. They've really gone downhill in their events. League of Nations moves into the Palestinations. I'm not going to read all this. A little bit of political power, get us back to positive. It turned into no. The Labor Party and the Communist Party are two different things. I'm not going to go into it, and I'm not good at this. The Labor Party definitely at times, and definitely under Corbyn, who's just been kicked out of it, who was their last leader for what they were called illegal anti-Semitic activities, as in illegal, not just as in shameful or something. He's definitely a socialist. But the core of labor, especially back in this time, as I see it, is not a socialist party. I mean, socialism, the means of production is owned collectively by the people through administered through the government. That is the idea of socialism. The Labor Party at its core is at least, and especially back in the 1930s, is an interest party, meaning they're sort of like like what used to be the Democratic Party in America until about 10 years ago. labor unions supported the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party was sort of out there for the workers. Now, of course, more and more of the unions are now actually supporting Trump because under the Democrats' policies, they're allowing too much of the manufacturing and other things to go overseas. So a lot of labor unions are now, especially the manufacturing labor unions and the the sort of mining labor unions, are supporting Trump because Trump is trying to protect jobs in America. So you sort of think of the Labor Party as all the labor unions in Britain, and we're still, fairly, rough working conditions in Britain. So it isn't so much, at least at this time, trying to have the government take over ownership of a car factory or of a mine. It's just workers' rights, workers' interests, as opposed to the Conservative Party, which wants to conservative again, and I'm not going to go deep into this, but conservatives want to maintain the status quo and only make changes when necessary. That's sort of at heart conservatism. So a conservative party in Britain and a conservative party in America may have very different views because they want to conserve two different status quos. So that is, conservatism is just being conservative for your nation. The other major party in Britain had been, and still was sort of at this time, though Labour's rising up, is the Liberal Party, which is nowadays gone intersectional and wacky, but is sort of it's sort of like the Republican Party in America. Especially at this time, in that they are, much more liberal in their policies, much less central control and whatnot. So those are the three parties that really had seats in Parliament: Conservatives, Conservatives, Liberal, and Labor, and that kind of thing. And you see where I'm not sure in 1936, but sometime in the 30s, Churchill has left the Conservative Party and has gone over to the Liberal Party. So it's not, conservatives and liberals, weren't, completely different or whatnot at the time there. And it just confused me sometimes. Oh, yeah. My great-grandmother sent him as an evacuee straight after that. Yeah, I'm sure that there were evacuees out of the cities. And then, of course, there were evacuees out of Britain entirely to places like Australia, Canada, and whatnot for getting kids out. Okay. Yeah, we're trying to build up some more political power. Remilitarization of the Rhineland. Protest actions. Again, this is all costing me different things that I don't have. Demilitarization of the Rhineland. What pictures? I have lousy pictures. Spies. We have not been doing spies, have we? I should do that. Okay, an infiltrator. Infiltration effectiveness. That looks pretty good. Oh, we do have a double agent. Seducer. Well, that looks pretty good. So we're going to get him, and then let's build a network in Germany. Well, where should we build a network? Yeah, let's build a network in Germany here. We'll get that soon. No longer effects of winter heating. Yeah, spring is coming up. Don't know quite. Let's see. Allied Anger 1. That's maybe them coming into the Rhineland. Steady as she goes. Good. Edward is our current monarch. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Black Ice. Thank you. Because, and the big thing I'm thanking them for is that we're starting with some military staff. Now, I could have seen a supreme commander, but at least we have head of the Army, head of the Navy, and the Air Force already in existence. We already have some ministers in their jobs, so we don't have to start with a clean slate. I hate because they gotta know better. I mean, I know they know better. Not that they gotta know better. I've talked to them. The developers know better. They should always start with a full set of minister types. Now, I could see maybe something like with the U.S. in 1936. Does it really have? Because it doesn't. The United States only has an Army and a Navy in 1936. The Marine Corps is part of the Navy, so it doesn't have. The Marine Corps is just under the Navy, and it's the Army Air Corps. Now, by the time we're talking, 1942, 1944, the Army Air Corps is almost a separate thing. I mean, there's significant uniform changes. The eagle on their hats are different, but they're still called the Army Air Corps. They don't become the Air Force until post-World War II. They don't fully get out from, and of course the Navy also in the U.S. and Britain and Japan and other places has their own air arm that is, and especially like the U.S. Navy's air arm, as you call it, the U.S. Navy Air Force, if you will, is larger than many nations' full air force. It's a huge air force. All the carriers and land-based, and seaplanes and float planes. It's a huge endeavor. So that's sort of like what you might say that the Army has, but with strategic bombing more and more, they're becoming a separate thing. So you might argue in some of these nations, and especially in 1936, you might very well, even in Germany, be able to argue not to have a tank designer in place, and definitely in, I don't know, well, yeah, even maybe Poland or whatever, some of these nations like Hungary or whatever, you wouldn't have a tank designer in place in 1936, but you would have some of these other things filled, and you would just use your political power to change them, because if you want to make changes. So maybe your ministers or your head of your army sucks because that's who was there, and it can actually be like we're having a negative effect from Edward here. You may have a negative effect in some of these positions, and you want to change them as soon as you get the political power to do so. I'm not arguing that you should have like the super staff as best you can at the start. So I love mods that ignore political ideologies in HOI IV. Not until 47. Yeah, okay. The U.S. Air Force is the largest Air Force in the world. The USN, if I remember correctly, was the second or third. Yeah. So yeah, it's the Navy, but I'm talking. It's a big Air Force. So I could argue, and maybe there's some slots that might be empty at the start. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, right? Like in ministers or something, there might be. I don't know. And like I say, with some nations, maybe you don't have something, but I would mostly have slots filled. And just make changes as needed. Italians are pushing into Ethiopia, but I like what they're doing with that. I do. Yeah. Put all possible, mostly try. No, we're not going to do that. Well, I think we're going to end this episode, not the live stream, but the episode here. I want to thank you all for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And I'd love to hear your comments, corrections, tips, suggestions. Please post below. See you next time for more, yes, more Hearts of Iron.